Hello, love. Welcome to Transmission Tuesdays here on the Libran Key. These are transmission messages of a galactic or cosmic nature for the highest and the greatest good of the ELSH collective, empaths, lightworkers, starseeds, healers, awakened and awakening souls, messages for the expansion of consciousness and for the ascension of Momma Gaia. Commander Ashtar here for this Transmission Tuesdays message to give us a little bit more of a deeper understanding of transmuting division. And he wants me to start by showing the division sign. In mathematics, in both these ways, okay, in both these angles, he immediately pointed me to the fact that what's interesting about division is there's always a meeting of, it's like a halfway point in this symbol, because what you see here are two dots and then a path down the middle. And it's interesting because this very much is an energy of balancing, is what he's saying. There's symmetry in this symbol, you know? And that's a curious question that that's just coming up for me now. It's like, where did we get all these mathematical symbols from? But that's a whole other topic for discussion. But when you think about it, there is symbolism, obviously, in the symbol, right? When it comes to division. So he's pointing us to the law of polarity. And I'm going to read an excerpt from the Kybalion just to kind of illuminate this a little bit. He's also showing me that when you take this symbol and you draw a line dot to dot, he's saying to me, when you connect the dots, and he means that not just in the literal way, but the metaphorical way, you get an equilateral cross. You get the true cross, in essence, of balance, of harmony, of integration, okay? I'm just gonna read a tiny little bit on the principle of polarity. This is obviously based on the 7 Hermetic principles, which go much deeper in terms of understanding. He really wants us to read between the lines with this, okay? So I'm quoting here from the Kybalion, the principle of polarity here. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degrees. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled, okay? Now, he wants to reiterate that this is the way that we understand things here on Earth, and that it's coming. There is, in a sense, through the understanding of the law of polarity, okay, or the principle of polarity. Some people refer to this simply as a law of the universe. We're not going to get into that, though. He just wants us to focus, because this is such a huge topic. This is a really big thing to dive deep into in terms of the meaning of it. But what he wants to bring through for this specific message is that we have to understand that the principle of polarity very much applies to the Earth plane. And it applies to this 3D Earth plane, okay? And where it goes wonky is when we essentially are not finding a middle way or a middle ground or a middle path or a balance or a harmonizing, okay? This essentially is finding, in understanding this concept of everything being on a spectrum here on Earth, of opposites almost coming full circle again, right? I mean, again, I'm seeing the imagery of the yin yang, right? This concept of we have good, bad, darkness, light, right? These polar opposites. It's in the transcendence of the polarization energies that we connect to ascension. So I hope that this is making sense. Essentially, we have to understand these things first here on Earth. We also have to understand how they work before we are able to actually transcend them. So our experience in life can be very polarized as we grow, as we go along our incarnation path here, our soul journey. And it's through those different degrees of experiencing things in terms of polarity that we learn more about everything being on a spectrum. Now he's pointing me to the energy here of inversion, and he wants to kind of shed light on that for a bit, because we also have a certain energy of inversion that ill manipulates polarity. Could you elaborate on that, please, Commander Ashtar? So he's coming back to the part of this principle of polarity, where all truths are but half-truths, all paradoxes must be reconciled, okay? Extremes meet. What he's saying here is that truths can also be inverted. And this is where we kind of need to read between the lines of any text that we're reading, and also delving deeper into these Hermetic principles, these ideas of the laws of the universe. And he's actually putting forward a question here of, are they laws of the universe or are they laws of Earth? We need to understand that, right? So where exactly are we placing the focus of? Because when we talk about oneness, right, and all coming from the same source, is there polarity in source? Is there polarity in source energy, right? The source, however, he's saying, is also not synonymous with the universe and how the universe functions as well. So all of these aspects of source are simply expressing themselves in different ways through different laws or principles. Okay, he's referring to them as principles of divinity. Now, what he really wants to speak to, just with giving sort of a little bit of a very, 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 very brief, touching on the principle of polarity, is to come to an understanding that through this principle of polarity and the ascension of it, we are able to then transmute division. So understanding that everything is on a spectrum, and he's bringing me back to this energy of the mirror, okay? So he's showing me this division symbol as two people or two beings or two souls, okay? Sparks of source, looking at one another with this line of division right between them. And then as we, jump down to this image here, we see a unification of that line. We connect the dots, okay? What's happening here is there is a mirroring going on. And it's interesting because a lot of what Carl Jung talks about and the psychoanalysis of Jungian psychology speaks to is this energy of the thing that triggers you, the thing that you do not like in someone else, is a reflection to some degree, again, on this spectrum of polarity, of something that you potentially at a deeper level, a parallel life component, past life, however you want to look at it, is a reflection of something within you. The deeper thing that's going on here is that essentially it's a connection to the ultimate oneness, knowing that all the things that we look at around us that we are not happy with, all the things that we look at around us that we judge or criticize, and I'm speaking very specifically to this, okay? The things that trigger us very unconsciously. It's one thing to be aware of this. He wants to really bring that through. It's one thing to be aware of this and understand, wow, that is really upsetting me. Why is that upsetting me? Okay, let's go deeper into that, as opposed to unconsciously functioning in a way where I'm constantly getting triggered, let's say by something, and living my life through that lens, okay? This is a different kind of energy where that is reflecting something within us. This also comes back to the energy, I think it was the last message that came through, where I was giving the example of Aries and Libra, where I was giving the example of astrology. Astrology is actually a really beautiful way he's showing me. He's also showing me the color wheel and the spectrum of color, where we have complementary colors and then like primary, tertiary, like we've got all these different kind of classifications for colors. And contrast is what he's showing me, black and white, all this contrasting energy. Astrology is a great way to understand how all of this exists on a spectrum, how traits exist on a spectrum, and they reflect each other, they mirror each other. There's so many ways that we can just delve into this. There's so many ways that we are able to learn from this spectrum, okay, of opposites, so to speak. So this is how we begin to transmute it. And as starseeds, as lightworkers, as awakened and awakening souls here on a mission, right? Here to expand consciousness, to assist, to support in the ascension of Momma Gaia in our own lives through our own energetic practices. This is an incredibly important thing for us to be focusing on, okay? I'm gonna pop some cards now to delve into this just a little bit more deeply. He is saying, though, that this will be something that we will be touching upon again a lot more with. I'm bringing the energy here of blue kyanite into this particular reading because part of it is speaking to really communicating these things clearly in situations when we are dealing with division. In situations where we are dealing with division. This is a more intermediate to advanced. And I don't mean to, I do want to address this though, because if you're here and you're watching this and you're still with this video, then this definitely will apply to you, okay? But what Commander Ashtar wants to also bring our awareness to is that there are still souls having a human experience, people in this world that will not understand this depending on where they are at in terms of how expanded, open-minded their consciousness is, okay? Because this is a more kind of intermediate understanding of division. Because people, one of the ways, but he's showing me that this is how there is a lot of this ill manipulation of people happening in the world, because it's easy to get people to be divided. And especially when we're psychologically ill manipulating emotions and also feeding people information that's incorrect with regard to the spectrum of things happening in this world, okay? There is something about division consciousness that is juicy fodder for the powers that were in terms of controlling people in terms of controlling a particular narrative. So keep that in mind as you move through your days. When you see division around you, keep that in mind. Also pay attention to where someone is energetically when they are very polarized. Begin to open your awareness to this. What is their energy like, right? As empaths, lightworkers, starseeds, and healers, awakened and awakening souls, you're going to be more sensitively attuned to those things. Come from a place of understanding. This is how we begin to transmute. Come from a place of understanding as to what their energy, what's going on with their energy, and what's happening with their consciousness before we start to jump to any conclusions about anyone, before we start to feed into a reactive energy, especially as empaths, right? Feeding into, again, as empaths, whether you're a lightworker, starseed, or healer, it's that empathic nature that we have that can be actually very reactive sometimes because we are very sensitive to energies and emotions, right? And if we are continuing to work on awareness around this, we will grow, okay? So have faith in that. Continuing to work around your awareness when it comes to these emotions that come up, it's really going to help you grow. It's going to help you really expand, okay? Also, blue kyanite, very much an energy of clarity, of higher frequency, of being able to see things from a broader perspective, especially when it comes to division. I'm going to be popping some cards here from the Light Seer's Tarot. We don't want to make this a long one, okay? King of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, so this is a really positive message is what he's telling me, because it's showing that we are moving away from just seeing things from a very three-dimensional point of view, right? And that goes without saying. If you're on this path of expanding consciousness here on Momma Gaia, okay? There's also a lot of old world kind of things being turned on their heads. He's actually showing me through this King of Pentacles, the Emperor. So we're seeing a softening of rigidity is what he's showing me around these concepts, being able to see them from a much higher perspective and a much more cosmic or galactic or universal, multiversal perspective. Four of Wands. This is about building very solid, spiritual, energetic foundations as well in our lives. And he's also showing me at the Four of Wands, this is so crazy, he's showing, so I'm literally seeing the Four of Wands, like two portals opening up, like 11:11. But he's also showing me the Four of Wands as this again. Or you could even see it as a minus and a minus and a plus and a plus. There's a lot more to that, is what he's showing me in terms of timelines, is what he's wanting to bring through as well. This is a message that's come up before, and he really wants to just reiterate it again with regard to us being fed, because, you know, you can choose not to take the food, false timelines through division. So I don't need to get into the details of it. Just look at what the big headlines are around the world when it comes to division and false timelines, okay? That are being fed to us. I'm hearing the phrase wag the dog, okay? If you check out that movie, remember that there is a lot that often is trying to be either disclosed to us in certain ways. It's a reflection of perhaps something that is going on to make us think it's actually not real. As I said, that this card flipped, the Knight of Cups, he's showing me emotional manipulation with that, okay? The Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups wears his heart on his sleeve. You see the horse in the background here? He's showing me that as our unbridled energy, this energy that's not like a life force kind of energy, a creative, raw kind of energy. I'm getting a lot of Kali Ma in that, actually. A lot of Kali Ma Kali in that, where it's like there's a rage that can come out. There's an energy that is unbridled, uncontrolled, and how it's these primitive, primal, there's a better way to put it, I think, because primitive can have negative connotations. And that's not what he's showing me here. He's just showing me this raw energy that can be ill manipulated in ways where we get people to, through what we're showing them, images, timelines, headlines, posts, social media, all these different, ways of manipulating and ill manipulating people to feel a certain way about something. Taking that energy and just whoop, manipulating it. Yeah, and he's pointing me to this, it looks like a love letter here on the card, but he's showing me the messages through that. The messaging that we're getting, to be aware of that. Because so many, oh my goodness, he's pointing me even to empaths here with these roses at the heart. Especially the empathic nature, he's saying, of all human beings gets manipulated, ill manipulated in such a way as well. Yeah. Ten of Pentacles in reverse. I'm hearing legacies crumbling with that. Interesting. Woo! This card's okay. He wants me to show this one. King of Cups. And I'm also Nine of Wands. Okay, so he wants me to keep going. He's showing me this is a story that's playing out. We have to be emotional mastery is what I'm hearing. We need to be the masters of our own emotions as empaths. And that includes Lightworkers, Starseeds, and Healers, setting up very healthy energetic boundaries, and he's saying specifically to me of discernment. I'm also going to pop a couple more here. I'm also hearing, with this Ten of Pentacles in reverse, attack on families. Attack on certain structures. This is part of the false timeline. Yeah. Eight of Swords. And the Magician. Wow. The Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Okay. The Ace of Pentacles is... This is interesting. It is a divine intervention in the physical, energetically. This is the energy of us harnessing. He's showing me this as there's a lot of Archangel Sandalphon energy coming through with this. Absolutely. He wants to confirm that. So this is an energy of taking the divine and grounding it into the physical. With this Magician card and this Eight of Swords, what you see in the mirror, this is really interesting because he's showing me projected illusions here with timelines. And he's also showing me the law of polarity and us being able to see that spark of source in the other, a mirroring of that, coming from a place of deep love and compassion, but that doesn't mean you're a doormat. This is a whole other video. This is a whole other topic for discussion, and I'm going to make a note of it. Because what essentially you see in this image is something that's not happening here. So he wants to focus more on the timeline aspect of this, false timelines. And I'm getting the acronym now for fear, false expectations appearing real. false expectations appearing real. It is through, he's saying, the energy of fear that false timelines can be created. So we have to become energetic masters of that. We also have to filter out what we are watching, what we are consuming energetically, physically with our own eyes. What are we taking into our bodies? What are we eating? How is our body feeling supported by the food that we eat? It all comes back to the body again with this, right? How are we regulating our nervous system? Because this is what we are. This is what we are. We are magicians. We have the ability to become energetic masters, masters of our own energy, to see truly what is going on. Discernment. Okay, one last thing he wants to say about mirroring here with regard to this law of polarity, or this principle of polarity. He's coming back to something again that we touched upon in the previous message, which I believe was the Feeling Fridays. I'm going to link that here because there's a bunch that's coming up right now with this. We spoke to, I should say, apologies, yeah. What we spoke to in that particular message was this idea of he's showing me actually, okay, so he just wants me to kind of continue on, watch that video, the Feeling Fridays one, because we do touch upon this concept, okay? What is interesting here is, again, the phrase that came up in the Feeling Fridays message was around dark or darkness in service to the light. Now, this darkness is not synonymous with evil. This is the darkness of the psyche. This is the darkness of the shadow. These are the things that perhaps we walk around very unconscious of. Hence, they are in the dark. They're not in the light of day. They're internal, right? We're not seeing them presented to us in full plain sight, but they are everywhere, everywhere. And that's not to, this isn't about, again, I'm not talking here about darkness being evil. I'm talking about the fact that there is a constant play happening here. There is a constant play happening here when it comes to this. And how are you mirroring that in your own reality, in your day-to-day life? And how are you actually looking in the mirror, is what he's showing me with this card. Looking in the mirror and seeing the truth. Seeing every aspect of yourself. Facing the fears, facing the ill manipulation, facing your own fears around perhaps not being discerning enough. We have to take a look at these things. And we always have to come back to truth, love, and consciousness around all of these things. Okay, I'm going to end it there. I'm going to end it there, okay? He's also, last thing I'm going to say is the 4 crows. They are not here to the 4 of Wands is what he's showing me. Meditation, rest, really intuitively opening up your channel, doing it in sacred space, doing it in a safe place, doing it in a safe haven is what I'm hearing. Havening, regulating our nervous system, making sure that we are doing all the things to take care of ourselves so that we are better able to get centered, to be more discerning, okay? Okay, I'm going to end it there. Thank you, Commander Ashtar, for being here with us. Thank you, Spirit. I thank you for being here with us, for sharing your time and your energy with us in this space. And I'm sending you so much love wherever you are, in love and liberation always.